Well, hello, YouTube modeling community. That's right, it's the Fat Man from Alabama coming to you from Don's Garage. Well, we're going to do a little improv how-to here. What I'm doing is I'm working on my Pro Street group build here. And if you've seen any of the other videos, you know this is the chassis for my 64 Plymouth Belvedere. Well, with kit bashing, in other words, where I have chopped up two chassis to make one, you know, this is the 70 Cornet Super B back half and rear suspension, and from about here forward is the 64 Plymouth. Now, the two cars have the same wheelbase, and everything should fall into place. The kit drive shaft, actually, the kit drive shaft does fit it, but it's a joke. Sorry, Lindbergh, but it is, shall we say, lacking in detail. Now, I'm dropping things to the floor. Let's see if we can get a little. There we go. It's pitiful. I mean, it's a stick with two pointy things on each end. You know, it works, and like I said, it fits the car. And normally, the type of building I do, this would work just fine. But I figure, well, we'll do a how-to, show you how I've done dry shafts over the years. You know, when I was playing around with contest building. So, we're going to take that. It's gone. Now, what I've done, I've got a bunch of these little short dry shafts that have an absolutely gorgeous U-joint. And there's many kits out there that have, oh, that's pitiful. I'll just use my hand. And it's still, there we go. It's just a very nicely looks like a U-joint. It's on both ends. So there's two U-joints to use. Now, as you can see, compared to the kit dry shaft that'll fit, we have a serious length issue. You know, the one that I'm going to use is literally half the length I need. Alright, what we do there, and I've already kind of I've already pre-made one piece. That's another dry shaft. These, if I'm not mistaken, these little U-joints I like. The dry shaft comes out of the Revell 32 Fords. They're nice. Here, what I've done is I've cut a piece of aluminum tubing. In fact, the size I used is K&S. Come on, focus. K&S 8102 8th by 0.014 or 3.18 millimeter. Three pieces. There's a lot of dry shafts right there. Basically what it is, the hole in the middle, the ID of the tubing is 3/32. And I know that because it's a scooch bigger than 3/32. I know that because I also used this tubing to make axle spacers when I was building slot cars. It was easier to buy a long stick of tubing. I make one spacer per side, the same length, without stacking. And just look neater. What I've done, there's my other piece, is first thing I kind of found center of the dry shaft of this, marked it, threw it in my miter box, cut it in two. Now this one, as you can see, now is considerably smaller diameter. Now what I've done here is, and I'll show you here in a minute, but basically I chucked it up in my cordless Craftsman drill and churned it down using a small rat tail file till I got it to where it will slide right into the tube And I've not really changed the diameter. It matches up with the shoulder from the original drive shaft. The shoulder's there, trust me. This camera's just not really going to want to pick it up. I do that. Now I have to use my micrometers there because, like I said, the ID dimension is 30, probably around 33 seconds. And what I've done here, this one obviously has not been turned down yet. As you can see here, the difference in diameter. Now I've had to turn it down quite a bit actually. This second line you see here, the second pencil line you see right here is when I chuck it up in the drill, I want to stay just behind that line. That gives me enough room here for my rat tail file to do its job without hitting the chuck, you know, tearing up the chuck, tearing up the file, or kicking it back and ruining the end I need. So that's what we've done. Give me a minute, I got to do this off camera, which I'm going to do it right behind me. And as soon as, there it is. So I'm going to chuck it up here in the drill. Just kind of hand tighten it. Nothing real crazy. But there it is. It's chucked up in the drill. And I will take this file, and as it's turning, I will pull the file in the opposite direction it's turning. And periodically I will stop and take my micrometer and check the diameter. Actually, before I do that, so if I can prop things up here. I'll take my razor saw and I'll go right against that shoulder that I want to keep, and I'll score a line there as it's turning. That also gives me a nice square edge as I turn down the shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera, turn it, do some turning on this, and then I will fire the camera back up and show you the progress. So hold on for a little bit, fellas. I'll be right back. Okay, fellas, I'm back. Here we've turned it down a little bit. It's not the final position it needs to be in, but it's close. As you can see, it has gotten smaller. In fact, let's light up the old micrometers here. Give us a little bit of a reading. And we are ways. Let me pull this back out where I can get a little better bite on this thing. Yeah, we still got a little ways to go. Let's see. Let's go to, yeah. It's I've got it down to 15/128, which I need it down to about 3/30 seconds. So let's give you a quick demonstration of what I'm talking about when I'm putting a file to it. As you can see, it's churning. I'll take the file and say I've made a shoulder where I don't want to cut. And this, I just do this. You know, there's no real time. I just, you know, I file it. Of course, the file's loading up, so it's slowing down some too. But do that like that. And let's see what we got. Okay, we're on the fraction side. We're down to 7/64. I'm going to pause the camera again. I'm going to get this closer where it needs to be. and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, fellas, we're back. I got a little carried away, and I actually broke it off the drill once. But there was enough meat, barely, but there was enough meat. And I was able to churn it down. It's a scooch small, but that'll give me room to glue it. Now you can take it off and cut it. You know what I'm gonna do. This is how I normally do it. I'm gonna fire the drill up again, throw the saw up here, similar to what a machinist would do on a lathe. There it is. I now have my other U-joint. Boy, it's hard to talk today. But there it is. I'll take my little fingernail filing sponge pad, just deburr a little bit. Don't have to get fancy. This end does not have to be cut perfectly straight. Let me get some tweezers here to hold it, because my big old thumb and finger is all kinds of in the way. And it pops off. Imagine that. It's been one of them days. I got quite a bit done today, but it wasn't without its issues. You see? There it is. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, just get a piece of tubing big enough for the original drive shaft to slide on. That's a legitimate question, and I won't give you my answer to it. I ain't saying I'm right, and it's just my opinion. This little shoulder here, the drive shaft part of the yoke, if I went bigger tubing, the tubing would be above it. This is a slip fit where I can glue it. I won't have to do any putty work, nothing. It'll look like the seam should look. Now, we've got the two pieces cut, or all three pieces cut. We've got our yokes. They're laying there. There's our piece of tubing. Now, prior to me starting to record, I took a few dimensions. Where's my stick? There it is. This is the overall length. It's 58 millimeter from the tail shaft to the rear end yoke. The tube length, well, that's the overall length. I measured I measured the yokes. They're 3 millimeter each, so it would be 6 millimeter. So I took my 58 overall length, subtracted the two yoke length to come up with my tube length to be 52 millimeter. So I took my trusty little measuring stick here. There it is. Fresh stick of tubing. Measured it. Put a little mark on it with my Sharpie, then wrapped a piece of tape around it so I have a relatively square line to saw through. So, we're into 14 minutes. I'm going to try to finish this up right quick, fellas. We'll kick that part drive shaft out. Now, you just slip one yoke into this end, and they're loose. This yoke into this end. Now, let's see. Let's measure it, just make sure, because I need 58 my total length. I will put it roughly close to 58 there. Well, let's move it up. Somewhere in that neighborhood, I'm about, a scooch long. That's all right. That's what a sanding stick's for. Now, we're going to fit that end in. The housing's not glued in, so we can take it loose, line up the pin pin all this back in. Now, woe and behold, we have a custom scratch-built drive shaft. That simple. Overall build time on this is about 30 minutes. That's if you've got everything laid out for yourself already. I mean, I'm not into, well, it has to be done, in X amount of time, but just making us, just letting you know what it's like. And there it is. Now, I can leave the tubing aluminum, polish it. I can glue it all together. I can paint the whole thing, or I can leave it apart, paint the yoke separate, glue them in, like I said, and polish the shaft. That's up to the builder. That's the nice thing about all of this. Up there, you have a perfectly round drive shaft. It has a real, a good scale appearance. And like I said, my shelf queens, I would not do this to normally. But I done this to where I could do another video, give you guys a little pointer on, how I've done things in the past. As you can see, this one I turned a little too much. It's loose. But that's good. That'll help me center it. Makes room for the glue. That's pretty much it. So, alright fellas, this is the longest video I've done in a while. I hope it uploads before sunrise. With that being said, like I always say, build the model for you. Live, love, and laugh. Fellas, let's enjoy this hobby. If you like what you see, drop a comment down below. Mash that like button. Help us out here. If this is your first time viewing, consider subscribing to my channel. Ring the notification bell. It'll let you know when I post a new video. Well, that's it, fellas. This is Don. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.